Thank you to you 613 subscribers to the channel now. That's great and it's much appreciated. What I want to talk to you about today is the differences between self-publishing, traditional publishing, vanity publishing, and using a self-publishing company. Now, firstly, these can be real individual choices, and I'd like to hear your input in the comments. Read your input in the comments, because it could help other people, and it'd be a good debate to have, and especially from those who have experienced any one or all of those ways of publishing a book. Now, there are pros and cons with all of these ways, and like I said, they're not suited. Each one isn't suited to everyone. They're all not suited to everyone. Some people would prefer to go down the self-publishing route. Now, from experience, I like this way because I have full control over my book. I also have full control of actually producing the book, including formatting, editing, getting the editing done, getting it out there, advertising, getting the covers created. They're all my responsibilities, which some of those things I'd like to be able to put off on someone else. And I don't just mean by hiring different companies, which I do, to actually have the book copy edited and proofread. I do everything else then pretty much myself. But they're my costs. I'm hiring those people to do those things. And I enjoy the process. And I can put that book then out to anywhere I want. It's not going to get altered by anybody else. And I have the full rights. I have the full ownership of that book. And that's what I like about it. Nobody else can have a say in that book. Nobody else can take any of the royalties or push the book or tell me to push the book or have any kind of control whatsoever. And it's kind of freeing, if you like. It's a kind of a self-employed freedom. And I'm proud of being able to do what I do. As I'm sure you will be too. It's something to be proud of. And quite rightly. But we're not going to get the book out there in most cases as well as a traditional publisher could. A traditional publisher has the contacts. A traditional publisher, which is what I'm talking about now, is a company that will take your manuscript. Now, I mean, I'm sure there's writers there that have used traditional publishers that have just dropped a big ream of paper on their desk, and the traditional publisher's got to work on it. We, as a self-publisher, we don't have that luxury. We've got to make sure our book's edited, formatted, proofread, all kinds of things. We've got to have a finished product. We can't have just pages of text, writing all down and leave it to a publishing company, to a traditional publishing company, to fix all the errors, to sort the grammar out, to make the covers, to format the book, to do everything. And with a traditional publisher, there's no fee. They pay for everything. They take the chance with your book. So the book has got to be right. They've got to actually accept your book, because they're putting a lot of effort into this. They're putting a lot of money into this. They have the contacts with the bookstores. Your book's going to go to bookstores rather than just to, say, Amazon or Barnes & Noble Press or Lulu or something like that. It's going to be heading towards the bookstores, if the bookstores will have it from them. But it's generally accepted that if a traditional publisher, a quality traditional publisher, has actually taken on your book and not asked for any money from you, and is not going to be asking any money from you, your book is generally going to do okay. You might not be a millionaire from it. You might make a little bit from it, or you might make a good income from it. It's very hard to say, but the fact is, you don't pay for anything. Your book goes out there, and ideally, the publisher will ask you to promote as well, by getting a web page up, by getting some social media done. But that's okay. They're the things that you'll be doing as a self-publisher anyway. So, yeah, if you can get a traditional publisher, it could be a good thing. It could be a really good thing if you can get a good one. But it's getting one. That's the hard thing. They're not easy to get. And as time goes on and more and more people go to publishing, to self-publishing, and to learn to write books, they're contacting these publishing houses and saying, look, I've got a great manuscript here. I've got a good story, and they're sending them in an email. They're attaching maybe the first chapter or something like that. And the publishers aren't really interested. The traditional publishers aren't really interested. What you need to do if you want to approach a traditional publisher is first get an agent, a traditional publishing agent. So you can look them up online, but that's ideally the way you would go. You would hire the agent. The agent would then contact a number of traditional publishers. If the agent agrees that your book could be something they'd be interested in. So that's the first stage. Ideally, you wouldn't be bothering, I say mithering, it's the same thing, but bothering a traditional publisher yourself. You wouldn't be sending them emails and things like that. Yeah, sure, there's going to be the odd one that accepts the book that way. Sometimes they actually ask at certain points for people to send the books. But you'd go through an agent because they can deal with, they're going to cost. They're going to give you a nice little bill. But it could be based on the royalties that you're earning from the book. So your book's getting split down into little chunks of royalties, but you're not covering the costs, you see. Other than advertising, your own advertising, you're not covering any of the production costs, the editing costs, or anything else. And you've got a good chance of getting the book into the bookstores. So what's wrong with traditional publishing? Well, absolutely nothing. I mean, you've got some fabulous self-publishers that have really hit the big time. And, they've used agencies to help with their publishing. And that's where the self-publishing companies come in. Now, those self-publishing companies will help you produce your book. You pay them for the privilege of that, but they will help you produce your book. They will do the editing. They will do the proofreading. They will do your book cover design, but they want your input with it as well. It's important that because you're going to stay in control. They're not going to take any of the royalties. They're not going to publish your book. They're going to help you create your book. So you've got a finished book at the end of it. You've got the manuscripts. You've got your PDF files ready for publishing wherever you need to publish. But you're going to be letting them know where you plan to publish so that they can produce the files for you. Everything's in-house. And at the end of it, you've paid them, but at the end of it, you've got a book and all the files you need to just go with. And they've helped you. They've said, well, look, how about you doing this and that? Or what if the way you've got your chapters set up here, do you mind if we do this? Or what if and there's input there. And that can be a price worth paying for. And a lot of people do. But at the end of it, like I say, you don't let them publish your book, although they could publish your book. They could, but they're going to want a cut for that then. If they're getting involved into your book, you want everything finished and you want your book. But this is where there's a difference between self-publishing companies and vanity publishing companies, which you've no doubt heard about. Now, they will understand that you've probably tried traditional publishers, or you may have gone all this way and that way, and it's confusing, and you're having problems, and they can prey on that. These vanity publishers. There's a big difference between self-publishing companies, like I say, and vanity publishing. These people really only want your money, And, well, everybody wants your money, but these only want your money, and they don't really have that much of an interest in your book or it being a success. Although part of your contract with a Vanity publisher could be that they will take royalties from your book if it's self-published, if they publish the book. At the end of all the processes, such as editing and just the same as the self-publishing company, all these processes, cover design, formatting, everything else goes through the Vanity publisher. But at the end, they hold you to a contract then. And it could be that they take a cut. They have a bit of an ownership in your book. And if they're hosting your book, and they'll say, okay, you know, it's going to go out to all these different, not retailers. They'll say that, you know, it can go out to retailers and stuff like that, but the chances of it getting to retailers from a Vanity publisher are super slim. And the same with a self-publishing company. It's only really the traditional publishers that can really reach those retailers. So the Vanity publisher really is only interested in your cash. He will go through all the processes with you, and at the end of it, you'll have a book that they say they will promote, which they'll likely promote very little. Your book will be hosted with them, and at the end of the year, you may receive a bill to cover the costs of the hosting. So you may end up paying them continually and not getting anything back. You might get some royalties, but it's not been enough to cover the costs that they say they've built up throughout the year by trying to push your book. You'll be very, very careful. So yeah, what you want is a publisher. If you're going the self-publishing company route, avoid the Vanity publishers that will want to latch onto your book at the end of it. You just want a self-publishing company that will help you produce your book, and you will retain all the files at the end of it in all the formats needed, such as ebook and hardcover, paperback, for the companies you plan to publish with, self-publish with. So yeah, it can be quite an intense minefield, really. If you're fortunate enough to be well connected, then a traditional publisher will be the way to go. If you just want to get on with your next book, you know, but it can take a long time for that book to get out there. It can take years sometimes from you getting your book to a traditional publisher to it actually being published. It can take a long time. But that doesn't matter because straight away you're onto your next book. So yeah, I mean, even now I think, yeah, I like the self-published route. But if I had a book that was successful on Amazon or another platform like Barnes & Noble, if I had a book that was successful enough that I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind a traditional publisher taking control of that and really taking it to the next level, which is, the chances are that's what they would do. And that's one of the benefits of a traditional publisher. But then I've got to allow for the fact that if I do that, they may want to make changes to my book. So really, I've got to be prepared to let it go in a lot of ways, to just say, okay, that was my book. It's still my book, but it was my book. But now I'm handing it over to someone else to take control of. I'm happy with that. It's my baby. You know, I've worked hard on that book. And a lot of people will say, yeah, of course I am. You know, if I've got a chance of hitting the big time with a traditional publisher, I'm going down that route.